So what if I told you that 90% of DeFi investors are playing the wrong game entirely? While most people are chasing the high APY pools, just diving in, jumping out of pools quick and fast, they're ultimately leaving a ton of money on the table. And while it might look like they're earning super high APRs of 300, 500, 1000% even, their portfolio is actually bleeding money consistently. Now, I've uncovered a strategy that has consistently worked in my portfolio for the past 3 years through both bull and bear markets, and has also consistently worked for the over 200 clients I've worked with. So I'm going to be revealing that exact strategy today, and I just want to go ahead and put a couple things out there. So if you're consistently struggling with divergence loss, or maybe you've never even heard the term divergence loss, then you should most definitely be paying attention to this video, because this is going to help improve your overall portfolio's health, and of course make sure that your portfolio is not leaking and leaving a ton of money on the table. So here's the thing: if we were to go in here and swap, let's just say some Ethereum for wrapped Bitcoin, basically, we were to execute a trade of 10 Ethereum for 0.25 wrapped Bitcoin. A lot of people don't look at the mechanics of this. It's putting 10 Ethereum into the liquidity pool and taking 0.25 wrapped Bitcoin out of the liquidity pool, which means as a liquidity provider, we will now have more wrapped Bitcoin and less Ethereum, because I am coming over here and executing this trade. But when other people do this exact same trade, same exact thing is going to happen. They're going to put Ethereum in the pool, they're going to take wrapped Bitcoin out, or hey, maybe they do it vice versa. Point is, there is shifting of assets that occurs in these liquidity pools. That's why you might start with 50% of each asset, and then all of a sudden end up with 70% of each asset. But here's the thing: when trades like this are executed, ultimately it adjusts the overall price of the liquidity pool. It's basically saying, hey, we now have more Ethereum in the liquidity pool and less wrapped Bitcoin. What does that do? That makes wrapped Bitcoin a little bit more valuable than Ethereum. So let me break that down just a little bit further. I'm currently in this sold or render position that I've been in for 6 days. I'm at an $855 profit within this position. I've made $287 in overall yield, and I got about $22,000 here. Well, in this sold or render position, I have something called impermanent loss, or divergence loss is what we like to refer to it as. It's $32 roughly. And basically that says, hey, if I held my initial $21,080 in deposits in the market as opposed to putting it in the liquidity pools, I would actually have $32 more, right? So I'd have more by holding the market. The reason why is because there's that shift of assets. You're being sold over time. You might start with, in this case, 42% SOL, but now you're at 51% SOL because all of a sudden render is outperforming SOL. So that's the divergence loss right there. Well, when we added my fees, obviously I am drastically outweighing that divergence loss. I have $290 in fees, which is way higher than $32. But that's the point. Most people have the complete opposite. Most people have an impermanent loss number, or divergence loss, that is significantly higher than the overall fees that they are generating. So the typical DeFi investor is playing a game that they really just can't win. They are chasing high risk assets that have super high APRs, and ultimately that leads to high volatility. So when there is high volatility, all of a sudden there's a break in correlation and their divergence loss is significantly higher than their overall earnings. So while they might make a bunch of money in overall fees, they have a bunch of divergence loss, or their portfolio is just simply bleeding more than if they just held their money in Ethereum and in Bitcoin, and they're slowly losing money over time. Not to mention, there's a load of crypto investors that aren't even in DeFi in general. They're just kind of sitting on the sidelines, holding their crypto assets, speculating on future price rises, waiting to make money basically, when they could be making money right now and speculating at the same exact time. I want to show you guys this chart right here of investing versus gambling. Whenever you are investing, your odds of losing money are relatively high at the very start, simply because markets go up, markets go down. Markets are volatile at the end of the day, especially the crypto market. Well, over time, you'll notice that your odds of making money consistently go up. But investing does not equal gambling, for the simple reason that if one of the assets that you're in is not here in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, 15 years, then of course, well, guess what? Your odds of making money are now zero, and your odds of losing money are 100%, simply because the asset is not there. Nobody's investing into it. So you really have to pick and choose when it comes to your assets, and pick super high quality assets for your portfolio, load it with those high quality assets. That way, instead of gambling, you are investing. So success in DeFi requires a complete mental shift. You need to shift away from just speculating on future price rises in cryptocurrency assets if you're coming from being a crypto hodler. Or if you're in decentralized finance, you need to shift away from the fact that APR, APY equals money, because it really does not. It equals more earnings, yes, but at the same time, what costs does that might come with? Could that come with your overall capital declining 20% in a day, 50% in a week, right? Could it come with having significant divergence loss within your position so your portfolio bleeds over time? That's the cost that a lot of these high APR and APY positions come with. I wanted to highlight a post in our community. Somebody came across this $1.6 million position in Ethereum to Tau. Now, I'm personally part of this liquidity pool myself. I know who owns this position, and their strategy here is not to make money. Their strategy here is to accumulate more Tau and accumulate more Ethereum. And the reason why is because by doing that in liquidity pools, they know that they'll make money by having those assets. So yes, we all want to make money at the end of the day, but we can't just jump from liquidity pool to making money. We have to jump from liquidity pool to accumulating more of the asset, which ultimately means beating divergence loss. And by accumulating more of the asset, we are then making money. It's a 3-step process, not a 2-step process. And again, our DeFi flywheel system is all about setting up systems just like this position to consistently accumulate more assets and ultimately compound that back into positions. This portfolio right here with $1.6 million in it, with a super broad range that is still doing about 80% APR on Ethereum to Tau, has a flywheel system implemented into it, right? And the flywheel system might look something like this. Let's assume in this instance, about $50,000 in this example, just be reasonable. And we're generating, say, 70% APR on the low end. We have monthly appreciation. That's what most people that are invested into these high APY liquidity pools do not have, which is monthly appreciation. They usually have monthly depreciation, right? But let's just say we have about 3% per month in monthly appreciation. Our divergence loss profit margin in this instance is going to be about 80%, whereas most investors are going to have less than 0 simply because they are getting beat by divergence loss. And of course, most investors just throw it all in liquidity pools, hope for the best. And my suggestion is maybe start with a good portion of liquidity pools, but have some hodls on the sideline, but then use your income to build more hodls, build bags and Tau, accumulate more assets. Don't get greedy to the point where you're just compounding it all, because then one day there will be an instance where Tau goes up 30-40% in a day and Ethereum pumps 5%. And now you're stuck with a bunch of Ethereum. You're out of range, right? You have a bunch of divergence loss. Well, if we would have accumulated a bunch of Tau and hodls while we were waiting, then ultimately that would have allowed us to have full market exposure to the amount that we accumulated. And of course, I always like to say, it's good to cash out a portion. Most people, they do not cash out a portion. You need to cash out a portion simply so you can show the fruit of your labor, basically. And simply so that way, if you're in a relationship, your spouse is like, well, where's all this money that you're making, right? How come it's not coming into the bank account? Or just as a human, you're putting in countless hours per day, and then all of a sudden you ride the market up. You don't want to ride it back down. And if you do ride it back down, you would have wanted to cash some out so that way you could have taken some profits in the meantime. It didn't have to be a lot, but just put something in your bank account to show yourself that this is real, that this is not just money on a screen or numbers on a screen, that this is actually something that can translate into real wealth like it has for me and has for many of my other clients. But as you can see, by executing on a flywheel like this, our starting value from 50 grand can appreciate to $101,000. That's between asset appreciation and the income that we're generating from this, starting at roughly $2,000 per month and building up to roughly $3,600 per month over the course of 12 months. Our income here is nearly doubling, which is pretty crazy. And it's a very, very simple flywheel. We have a liquidity pool, produces us income. We take that income and allocate to hodls, cashing out, and even compounding a portion to build our liquidity pool up over time and produce more income. So again, the important thing to realize is that the DeFi flywheel is not just another strategy. It is an actual framework for letting your portfolio grow on its own. And you can implement that framework by simply setting up a system where your liquidity pools produce income, and you take that income and distribute it in a very strategic manner. And I do say strategic manner because it's important not to just throw it all right back into the same exact position, right? You need to create diversification through multiple positions. And when you have that diversification, you need to diversify your income and determine where that's going, what altcoins you're buying, what assets you're creating liquidity pools in with income, what liquidity pools you already have that you're injecting capital in from income, right? How much you're cashing out. It's a very, very strategic process to break down. And remember, APY is just a piece of the puzzle, and it is not the most important piece whatsoever. A lot of people like, oh, high APY, I dive in, I make money, what can go wrong, right? Well, a lot can go wrong, right? Including your initial assets depreciating by 50% in a day, and all of a sudden you not having enough fees to even break even on that, right? Your risk to reward ratio is really in the gutter when you're chasing those high APY pools that are relatively high risk. A lot of people like to come over to this tool Metrics Finance to find assets. And simply because this is where all these APRs and APYs are displayed for different DeFi liquidity pools. I don't like to go to Metrics Finance first. I love using Metrics Finance for finding positions. It's by far the best tool I've used. But with that being said, I don't start on Metrics Finance simply because Metrics Finance is a position discovery tool. CoinGecko is an asset discovery tool. I discover the assets and then I discover the positions. So currently we're on a dip. I want to take advantage of this dip right here. Ethereum is down 11.6% today. That's one asset that I'll be buying today, right? But on top of that, what other assets can I accumulate? And typically I like to go down a little bit and I like to look at some other assets like, oh, there's Link over here. There's HBAR. There's AVAX. There's SUI. These are all assets that I could be accumulating. And if I want to learn more about them, I could simply just dive into them. So let's find one over here, like Aave. Say we've never heard of Aave in the past. Well, there's information about what Aave actually is, the history, stuff like that, right here on the CoinGecko page. We can also go directly to their website and learn more about what Aave is over here on their website. And if we can't learn what they are from the homepage of their website, then we probably should not be investing in that asset because they're fluffing. We just want to get straight to the point. That's what we enjoy here. Speaking of which, if you guys enjoy my content that's straight to the point, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, notifications turned on, because we try to bring you the most value on YouTube. We have no ads whatsoever on this channel. We don't monetize it. And the simple reason for that is because we want to get straight to the point and teach you what you want to know. So there's 3 steps in this process right here. Number 1 is to position yourself correctly in high quality crypto assets that are generating revenue, have very strong fundamentals, aren't hyperinflationary. Number 2 is to then go and beat divergence loss in liquidity pools for those assets. So that way you have all the growth with those assets, but also you're beating divergence loss, so you're consistently accumulating more assets. And then your goal is to compound those returns systematically. So that way you're building your portfolio over time and executing on a flywheel strategy. So most investors are just trying to jump straight to stage 3. Ultimately, you need to go through stage 1, 2, and then 3. So now you have a choice to make. You can continue with the same approach that 90% of crypto and DeFi investors are using, which is just simply finding the highest APY positions, diving straight in, looking at APYs and using that as your key performance indicator for diving into position, and ultimately end up with the same results that they get, which historically is not good. Or you can strategically position yourself in a market that has the potential to go up still 2, 3, even 4x from here, and you can consistently earn income during that period, so you can go up way more than most crypto and DeFi investors are going to witness. But most importantly, you can make sure that you're actually going up as opposed to bleeding over time like most investors are. In my next video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can implement this flywheel strategy, earn 50 to 150% APR returns. So if you guys want to stay tuned for that, again, you know what to do. Drop a like, subscribe, notifications turned on. All the resources are right below this video. I'll see you guys in the next one, and peace out.